Hello friends, now we have done with the learning aspect of the psychology. All the learning topics I have covered in my previous videos, you can go and have a look at them. Now let us deal with the theory part of psychology. So the first theory that we are going to see is the trial and error theory of learning by Edward Thorndike. So who is this Edward Thorndike? He's an American educational psychologist. Okay, he's from America. Okay, this trial and error theory is also known as connectionism or bond theory of learning. Okay, this theory is developed with a series of experiments on animals, especially cats. Okay, Thorndike has carried out various experiments by using cats, and he explained that learning will occur through repeated attempts or repeated trials and the elimination of errors or unsuccessful responses. So, a learning can only occur when you keep on trying. So, every trial you will have certain errors. So, the next trial you will eliminate the error and then proceed. So, elimination of error and repeated attempts is the key to this theory. Okay, correct responses are strengthened while incorrect responses are weakened. That means correct responses, whichever is correct in that particular aspect, they will strengthen in our mind. They will retain in our mind. And whichever are incorrect will slowly fade away. So the definition of trial and error theory is trial and error learning. It is a process of learning in which the individual acquires the correct response after making repeated attempts and eliminating mistakes. So only when you eliminate the mistakes, only when you try to cover the mistakes, then only you can learn. Okay, what is the key idea? First trial, then you make errors. Then you get feedback from your teachers or elders or whoever it is. Then based on that feedback, you improve by correcting the errors. And then you achieve success. Okay, so this is a flowchart of trial and error theory. So what are the keywords here is connectionism, stimulus, response, practice, reinforcement and learning by doing. We will see all this in the coming slides. So let us see who is this Edward Lee Thorndike. Okay, he's an American psychologist. He's a pioneer in educational psychology. And he conducted many information to understand how learning takes place. So he is the first person to introduce stimulus and response connections. So we will see the definition of stimulus and response in the later slides. So what are the assumptions of this theory? Learning is gradual. Learning doesn't take place all at once. It takes place step by step in a gradual way. Okay, learning occurs through practice. Okay, so practice is important for learning. So correct responses become stronger with repetition. So practice and repetition are the key. Wrong responses gradually disappear. Okay, satisfaction strengthens learning. So if you are satisfied, if you are happy with whatever you're doing, you will be able to learn more. Okay, dissatisfaction will weaken learning. So important terms. What is stimulus? Any situation or problem. So what is stimulus? Any situation or problem that is presented to the learner. Okay, that means it is a driving force. Stimulus is the force. You can also call it as a driving force. Okay, or a situation or a problem. Okay, response. It is a reaction of the learner to the stimulus. Okay, this is the force. This is the reaction. Okay. Then bond. What is a bond? That is a connection that is formed between the stimulus and the response. Now, this is very, very important. Let us see what experiment Thorndike has done. Okay, it is called the puzzle box experiment. Okay, so this experiment, the main aim of this experiment is to study how animals learn to solve problems. Okay, this is the main aim. Now, what is the experimental setup? You can see here. This is a puzzle box. Okay, this is a box. Okay. In this, a cat has been kept. A hungry cat has been kept in a puzzle box. Okay. This is the box and a cat has been kept in this box. The cat was very hungry. Okay. Fish was placed outside the box. Okay. Fish is the cat's food. It was placed outside the box. Okay. The box could be opened only by pressing a lever. That means there is a button. If you press that button, the box will get opened. Okay. Then what are the observations? So first what he did, what what was done is the cat jumped. It was put in a box and the box was locked. Okay. The cat tried always. It jumped, it scratched, it moved randomly to come out of the box and take that fish. Okay. In that process, it accidentally pressed the lever. Okay. Lever means the button. Okay. Door opened. Now cat went and had the food. Okay. Later what was done was the cat, it got used to pressing that lever. So it understood that if it presses the lever, the door will open. So what it did, it started pressing the lever. Okay. That means random movements gradually decreased. Random, that is jumping, scratching, moving. All these random movements were decreased because the cat knew that if the lever is pressed, the door will open. Okay. Correct response occurred faster. Errors became fewer and escape time reduced. What it after many trials, what the cat did, it simply pressed the lever and it got the food. So in this way, it got a lot of practice and the errors are reduced. So, what is the conclusion? Learning occurred through trial and error. That means it tried and it tried, and every trial it corrected its errors. Okay. Successful responses were repeated, unsuccessful responses were discarded. That means pressing the lever is successful response. Unsuccessful response is jumping, scratching, moving randomly. All these are unsuccessful responses. Okay. Now learning curve and characteristics of trial and error learning. So what is the learning curve according to Thorndike? First attempts show many mistakes. That means the learning is slow. Then errors, the learning is decreasing. Then errors decrease with practice and correct responses increased gradually. Okay. Then performance increases steadily over time. That means if you draw a graph, it will be something like this. Okay. Initially, since it made a lot of mistakes, the results were slow. Then later on, after practice, the graph increased. Okay, that means the performance improved. Okay, now what are the characteristics? Learning is gradual. It requires repeated practice and involves errors initially, many errors initially, and it depends on reinforcement. What is reinforcement? Repeatedly doing the same thing is called reinforcement. And goal directed behavior. What is the goal here? Fish. So its behavior is with respect to that fish and learning by doing. Okay, only when you do, you will be able to learn. Then suitable for skill learning. Any skills you want to learn, this technique is very important and it strengthens the habits through repetition. So these are the few examples where this learning is put to use. That is learning to ride a bicycle, trying typing keyboard, solving maths problems, driving a car, learning to swim. So all these are skills. Okay, so all these are skill related. Okay, now what are the, so he formulated few laws based on his theory. Okay, what are the laws? First is law of readiness. That means if a person has to learn something, he has to be mentally, physically ready to take up that learning, to learn effectively. A person has to be physically and mentally ready or prepared. So if he is ready, he will be motivated. So lack of readiness will lead to frustration. Simple. Okay. A child interested in reading will learn faster. That means a child who is ready to learn will learn faster. Okay. Interest and readiness are very important. Law of exercise. Very simple. Practice strengthens learning. Okay. Now, this law of exercise is divided into two parts. law of use and law of disuse. Okay, law of use means practice will strengthen learning. Law of disuse means lack of practice will weaken learning. Opposite. Okay, then law of effect. Okay, effect means the responses which are followed by satisfaction are strengthened. That means if you are satisfied with whatever you are doing, you will feel motivated. You will feel strengthened. You will get that strength to perform more and more. Responses which are followed by discomfort are weakened. Please remember all this. Then positive reinforcement will improve learning. That means if you are rewarded, if you are praised for whatever you are doing, then you will do more and more. You will learn more and more. Okay, so reinforcement is very, very important. Then these are the primary laws. Okay, these two are the three are the primary laws. What are the secondary laws? Multiple responses. Okay, that means learner tries different methods until he succeeds. Set or attitude. That means the mental attitude. What is the condition of the person's mind will also influence the learning. Then prepotency of elements. Okay, learner focuses on important aspects of the particular situation. Okay, prepotency means focusing on the important aspects only. Okay, whichever are useful he will focus on that. Okay, then response by analogy. That means previous learning will help a person to solve new problems. Then associative shifting. That means responses can gradually be transferred to new situations. That means if a person learns a particular thing from a particular process, he will gradually learn to apply that particular knowledge to various other things. Okay, that is associative shifting. That is by associating one thing, he's shifting to another task by associating it with the older task. Very simple. Then what are its educational implications for teachers? Okay, teachers should provide sufficient practice sessions for students and then encourage learning by doing and then reinforce correct responses immediately. That means as soon as a person does something good or gives a right answer, teacher should praise him. Okay, that will give positive motivation. It will teacher should create learner readiness before teaching. That means before teaching any new concept, teacher should make sure that the students are ready to gain that particular knowledge. Timely feedback is very important and break difficult tasks into smaller steps. Then motivate learners continuously and encourage active participation. And finally, they should provide opportunities for repeated practice. Practice is the key to this theory. Then learners, what they have to do, what is their role? They should learn through experience and they should accept their mistakes as a part of learning. They should practice whatever they have learned very regularly and they have to develop confidence through repetition or practice. What are the advantages? It is simple and easy. It is based on scientific experiments. We have seen what is the experiment also. It is useful for skill learning. It highlights the importance of practice, emphasizes reinforcement, useful in classroom teaching and applicable for habit formation. What is the demerits? Ignores insight and reasoning. So this one will not encourage students to reason or critically think. Okay, it is mostly relied on practice and repeating a task. That means rote memorization is given a lot of importance. Okay, it is time consuming and as I said, too much dependence on repetition. It is based mainly on animal experiments. So based on animals, we cannot consider it to humans. No, we cannot apply it to humans. So that is what they are trying to tell here. It does not explain sudden learning. That means it is kind of incidental learning that we have learned in the previous video. It is less suitable for higher mental processes like creativity. That means it does not involve creative aspect of the mind. So what are its applications? Drill and practice method, laboratory activities, practical work, sports training, computer skill development. So this theory is mainly it can be associated to skills, various skill learning. Okay, then language learning, maths and problem solving, and science experiment. Okay, so what should a teacher do? Appreciate correct responses. That means reinforcement. Correct mistakes positively and encourage repeated practice and support. Provide a supportive learning environment and use rewards appropriately. So every student's good behavior or any correct answer should be rewarded. Okay, now this is a quick revision. You can go through, and this is a memory trick that I have given for you all to remember this concept easily.